Hello and welcome. Oh wait, oh crap! I didn't hit record on the thing. Wait, now we're gonna start for real this time.
Nice job.
Hello and welcome to the live edition of Westworld with Jay, Jack, and Mike. My name is Jay.
My name is Mike.
And some of us are alive.
And welcome to the show, everybody out there in internet lands and beyond. We are here immediately following the finale to this insane season of Westworld. A lot of theories, I guess, were proven out in this one, and maybe some surprises as well, and maybe some more confused thoughts about what's going on and how things are going. But all in all, what do you guys think? Nothing? Mm-hmm.
Confused?
Well, it really was, as you just described, sort of a mixed bag, because a lot of things were confirmed. I would say, albeit the first 50 minutes of that episode were outright confirmations that were being talked about not only in our podcast, not only in our crossover podcast with post-show recaps, but across the general internet population. I mean, the William is Man in Black theory was as prevalent as week 2, 2 months ago at this point. But the exciting thing was that I felt like the last half an hour to 40 minutes or so were things that were new to me, interesting to me, surprising to me. So I feel like you got a good mix there. You got the fans that were really looking for their theories to be confirmed. They got satiated. At the same time, for those that might have complained oh, it's going to get too predictable, then you have these new elements, and we're definitely going to talk about that last scene, which I feel like definitely might help answer Jack's lingering question of how does this thing last not even 6 seasons as much as another season. Where do we go from here?
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely.
Can I just say the one theory that Man in Black was just dragging Dolores into the barn to have just eliminate or something? I guess wasn't true.
Rape theory confirmed.
I think the rape theory is confirmed that William had gone. He broke.
He gone full breaking. He broke complete bad.
Yeah, he did. I mean, it's just incredible. Just because she drops her can, and another guy picks it up. Okay, I can't handle that.
So he's the type. He doesn't want to share.
Yeah, he doesn't want to share. I mean, he just, he gets all excited. He sees her, and she drops her can, and he's going over there, and who picks it up? Some other guy.
Oh man. What's going to be different about this show is this is a live kind of reaction show, so you're getting our raw thoughts, our raw emotions, our raw feelings here, and you guys can contribute as we go live here. So if you are on the Twitter along with us, it's hashtag Jay and Jack Live. Colleen says she's going to be sourcing all this. I'll be pulling it up too on here. There's also a chat on the YouTube, which is being filled up pretty immensely at the moment.
I hope it's all compliments about my hat.
I feel bad now. Actually, no. I'm wearing a Jurassic Park shirt. That's
They did reference dinosaurs tonight, so I feel like that's the Crichton connection, which was a horrible Muppet song.
Wait, Chargers, things that are dead.
But yeah, a finale with confirmations and new things. Do we want to talk about our finale prediction show? We did a draft on which theories would come true and which ones wouldn't. Do we want to kind of go through that real quick with the post-show recaps crew?
Nah. I mean, I'm pretty sure we lost, but I guess for the sake of posterity, we should go through it.
Well, hold on. Well, they had Man in Black as Will, so they get that point, sure.
Yeah, they took the easy one.
But we picked 4 dies.
Yeah.
So that's a point. We also got the Maze reveal, which was revealed in this episode. So that's 2. Joe said Charlotte is Arnold's daughter. We did not find that out, so that doesn't count. I think they also picked Elsie is alive. That doesn't count because that didn't happen.
I was very surprised no Ghost Nation in this episode, considering how much they showed it, or not how much they showed it, but the fact that they briefly showed it last episode. I guess it's something for season 2.
Yeah.
So if Elsie comes back in season 2, it doesn't count.
No, it was only predictions for the finale.
It was only for the finale. So and then our last one was the death of Lee Sizemore. Unfortunately, that did not happen. The
Ah!
death of Lisa.
Do we know he
Why?
did? Do we know he didn't die when he went in there and saw an empty room? A little piece of him died in the side.
Yes, any hopes of a
that he was
future
playing.
career died. Future career prospects died. That counts.
Oh man. Things coming in from Twitter. Lady Flick says, loving the Westworld finale. Violent delights indeed. Violent delights indeed. Just initial thoughts here. A good finale, bad finale, finale. What's the current barometer of the Westworld crew? Jack, you go first.
I thought it was great. I loved it. I like how they revealed Man in Black, who he was, because at first I'm like going, okay, is there a little hope that it could be Logan? I was holding out. I go, please.
We were saying at house like, oh my god, if it's Logan,
please,
I just
please,
no.
The way he was talking, and then I go, and then when I saw Logan going away naked, I said, great, it's not gonna be Logan. But I like the way they revealed it, how he lifts his hat. And she goes, William, yep, it's me. I'm the one that's been beating you, doing you harm all these years because you let some other guy pick up your can. How does a guy go from just in love with her?
It's 30 years, right? It's 30 years. Like he went to the precipice and like jumped over.
I guess, but he was so in love with her, so obsessed with her. And
yeah, I mean, he was still doing pretty bad stuff even 30-something years beforehand. You could chart it as a gradual decline, but he jumped pretty hard into that pool when he was, last episode when he was slaughtering all the Confederados. He's still slaughtering people this episode. He's even treating Logan with a bunch of contempt as well, and that's a fellow human being. So he's already showing some pretty clear signs of a transformation at the outset.
Is this the last we've seen of Logan? I mean, we saw a lot of Logan today, but
I guess the question is,
we wanted to see.
Are we sending Ben Barnes off into the world as he came in completely naked? I'm not sure, because that was one of your theories, Jack, right? Is that William had killed Logan, and that was the whole thing about like why his wife spurns him and why she eventually possibly kills herself. But we don't exactly know. He could have just set Logan off on an embarrassing narrative on his own, being naked, tied to a horse at the outskirts of town.
But he says he's a good guy in the real world. Remember that episode where he said, I'm one of the good guys? I don't think you could be that bad in make-believe world, and you could. I don't think you can. You can't.
Well, if his wife killed herself because she knew who he truly was, which was this bad person, doesn't that sure, he may be pretending to be a normal good person, but really he's a horrible person.
Was he always
down his true self?
Was he always a horrible person?
Well, that's the whole appeal of Westworld, right? You find your true self.
Well, yeah, it's the appeal of Westworld, but it's also, I feel like, and this is maybe something we can address in our feedback show, because I feel like this is something that I really need to chew on, because we have two different methodologies here of what Westworld is. Some people say Westworld is who you are. Some people say Westworld is who you want to be. Some people say it's somewhere in between. And we are getting so many conflicting arguments from so many different people that I'm not entirely sure what the show wants us to think Westworld is at this point.
Well, it's Logan is who he is. I think that's who Logan is, probably in this world, out that world. He's a spoiled rich kid. Right?
Oh, so are you saying that Logan isn't some sort of Machiavellian complex character? Is that what you're saying, Jack?
He wasn't until he rode naked off into the sunset.
Jack, do you have to eat crow? Is that Mike and I had our humble pie last week.
I said it last week. I probably have to do it. So should I just do it live here and not?
Yeah, live here in front of.
I was wrong.
Live crow eating will not be grosser than Armistice biting off that guy's finger and making him eat it.
So Jack, beyond your really hopeless theory not being right, other thoughts about the finale from your perspective?
I don't think it was hopeless. I think because who would think that William would go? That was my whole argument.
Again, all right. Just I want to know beyond your theory. We've heard enough about your theory.
But
what did you think of the finale?
I loved it. I thought it was great. And like I said, I can't believe we have to wait a year to find out what's going to happen. What's happening with who knows? I mean, it just left you going. I'm watching the final going, okay, But
Well, season 2 is Samurai World. I think they
Yes.
clearly alluded to that. So
because what's his name said it. He said it's complicated.
yes,
Yes.
Felix.
Felix. Well, obviously it's complicated because no one knows what's going on. So. But I thought I was into it the whole time. I liked it. Teddy gets shot again, which is always good for an episode. And he just had that look like, Dolores, why are you shooting me? Why?
Well, another big theory, it wasn't on our list. We probably should have picked that, but like Dolores' Wyatt, that was another one that was very prevalent, and that one, came true. But yeah, so but nothing beyond just you thought it was good, Jack. Nothing like it really sealed the deal for you on it, like because one of your biggest concerns throughout the whole season is and Mike referenced it, like where do we go from here? Do you feel like the ending of this season, you feel like it's set up for whatever the future seasons are going to be?
Well, at least season 2. I mean, I can see how they're the way I was when I was watching it, seeing how it's going to go. I go, okay, they're going to wrap everything up in this episode. Is it going to just be a brand new reboot next year? Is it going to be just another story of Westworld? That's what I was thinking the whole time during the episode. But then when the way it ended, I go, okay, I see what they're going to do. It's going to be the story is going to continue, and what's going to happen with the samurais and everything else. What's going to happen? What did Ford leave in place to happen? Or is Ford really dead? Was that Ford, or was that a?
No, I think he's dead. It's the thought of it, like Anthony Hopkins is a great actor. He probably only signed on for one season, so I think that's it. I think
that's a wrap on Hopkins. Though there's a possibility that since we have these sort of Dolores reveries, ghost visions, there's a chance that he could show up in that as well, or maybe they'll just have Jeffrey Wright serve as the Arnold envoy to all of her coming into consciousness moments.
Yeah, or they just have like a computer generated young Arnold, Dr. Ford, that we keep saying.
Ford will be hanging out with Yul Brynner.
You see him? He's one of the board members.
So Colleen before this, she's like, okay, you got to try and pull the Yul Brynner joke on Mike, but you already jumped me. You already beat me.
I pulled first while we were.
Draw. We watched the movie before.
The Yul Brynner joke.
All right. So that, Jack, your thoughts. Mike, your thoughts. Just like yay, nay. What'd you like? What'd you not like?
So this was a finale that took its time. Mm-hmm. It was an hour and a half, and when we got 45 minutes through, I'm like, what else can they possibly do? Because again, that first half was filled with so many reveals, but again, they took their time with that reveals. That whole Man in Black scene, granted, I was kind of in the Logan train for a second as well when he said, oh, yeah, I knew someone named William, and that was him being cheeky, but for a second I thought that he actually was not William. But I mean, they took their time with that reveal. The Dolores' Wyatt stuff, we basically got it confirmed at the beginning of the episode, but not outright really until the end. I'll admit, and maybe it's just because we've been talking circles around these theories for weeks, I liked the last half hour more than the previous hour. I still like the previous hour, but the last half hour was new territory for me. I was journeying out of our own theoretical Sweetwater, and we were exploring the outskirts, the Badlands, the theoretical places that we don't really know about. Really, really excited to see where we go from here. I mean, Jonathan Nolan says in his little, after the big moment recap after the episode, he says season 1 was all about control. Season 2 is going to be all about chaos. And that seems very, very exciting. Because now that things are kind of thrown to a chaotic point of view, but now we know who the Man in Black is. We know Dolores, and Dolores has finally come into consciousness, which is such a big moment for the show. And I'm so happy I'm wrong that we actually got that reveal at the end of the episode. I feel like even though there were quite a few number of things that were not surprises to us, I still greatly enjoyed both the way those were revealed and everything else that was going on that was completely new to me.
Yeah. That last half was just so moving, and then the realization of consciousness and where they're going to go from here, and the thought that second season is going to be chaos, and and a really poignant moment of Maeve, who is being told that someone's controlling her and telling her what to do, which is to get out of here, but her having her own self-consciousness and going back for her daughter, which was probably against the directive that was assigned to her. was really great. So
should we tell people that maybe didn't watch after the credits there is extra footage?
Yes, the Marvel part of Westworld.
Well,
This is where Nick Fury enters Samurai World and says that they're starting a new initiative to recruit hosts.
Well, a few, I think Jim Watari on the hashtag Jay and Jack Live. Again, if you're on Twitter, hashtag Jay and Jack Live for any comments. And also we have a chat here on the YouTubes, but that's going pretpretty quick. But talking about the post-credits scene with, I'm blanking on her name now.
Armistice.
Thank you, Armistice.
A farewell to Armistice as she cut off Armistice.
Which is kind of cool, like, right? If they probably knew that going into it, she was going to cut off her arm. But where is that just kind of like a little nice scene, or is there anything more to that? You know, given that she was in, I'm assuming Samurai World since it was SW. But does that lead to anything more? Or is it just like a nice little extra scene?
Yeah, I guess the question is, has she gone rogue? Because we also don't know the whereabouts of Hector. We know that Maeve left him behind and he ended up gunning everyone down, which I didn't know if we want to unpack this now or in the feedback show about that. We found out really firsthand what the Westworld technicians use those hosts for, and that was insane. It reminded me a lot of, like, I think it's in the first Amazing Spider-Man movie where it's the scene where, like, Stan Lee's listening to music in the library and there's all this action going on behind him. That's exactly what I thought about that scene. But we saw him gunning down people outside of the elevator. We don't know if he was taken down and decommissioned. So Armistice is obviously on the loose. We don't know if Hector is. If that's the case and their aggression levels have been ticked up to God knows where, and they're on the loose, who knows what's going to happen to them and if they're going to be able to make their way back in the park.
Yeah, I mean, with it all being shut down, a multitude of different possibilities, and the fact that we just kind of scratched the surface on this different park, which was like another big question throughout all the season was, okay, are they going to open up to Roman world and medieval world like there was in the movie? You know, Samurai World makes sense from like a cultural perspective, from like a world perspective. Because, you know, different people from different parts of the world probably wouldn't have the same, you know, care for the you know, West, the old West of the 1800s and stuff like that. So it makes sense that there would be different worlds to kind of match different cultures throughout the world. Is
Dolores going to be in Samurai World?
I'm assuming but there's a whole slew of other people over there God, there's so many questions that open up with the Samurai World thing, because do they have their own Ford that's running that, or was he overseeing that as well? It didn't seem like there was anything with Samurai World in his office.
It's true. He's spending an awful lot of time in Westworld. Like, Samurai World, like the Euro Disney then of the world.
It's just like there's so like there's this entire adventures happening somewhere else that we don't even know about, which is just. I can't even like put my mind around it at the moment. But Toffee TV says, I know Jack worried that we're getting too much too soon, but by the end of the season, it really feels like this is just the prologue for the bigger story. And I know, I think, I can't remember who said it, but this is going to seem like a prequel once the season's done to the greater story. And I think you could say that's true, because really we're only getting started with the hosts, you know, running amok finally.
Yeah, which should make things more exciting, because, I mean, this season has been great, but it's almost felt like a slow drip. So now I think if we're talking about a crack in the dam, if you will, and nobody to stick their finger in the dike, now this water is really starting to gush out at a more alarming rate, eventually leading to what I might assume is a giant cascade of water flowing out.
Yeah, and but the only people that can really escape right now are Maeve and possibly Hector and Armistice, since we don't know for sure if their the explosives on their spine was removed. They showed us the spines being put in for what we assume is Maeve, and we didn't see the explosive there. So there's still a lot of struggle that they have ahead to get out.
I'm assuming Hector's wasn't. That's why Maeve didn't bring him.
Yeah,
that's true. So if Maeve's the only one that can get out right now, how is everybody else going to get out without exploding?
Well, the plan I don't think is to get out right now. I think the plan is let's show these people that this is our world. So
That's true.
I think the immediate actions moving forward is to actually mirror what happens in the movie. I know we've been talking this entire time about like, yeah, they're really using the framework of the movie, but they're not really building to a lot of the action. But even there was a scene tonight where the control room got locked down, and that's mirroring the movie.
Yes,
so I feel like we're really getting closer to that main vein that the movie was kind of flowing through.
Yeah, no, it's a good call, and it's funny. Colleen and I just kind of like on a whim, like let's watch the movie finally before the finale. It's a it's a great time to do it, but it kind of worked out really well because there was some callbacks to the original movie in this one, like the lockdown scene, and then things finally happening. That was like, oh, this and then the reveal of another world, like, oh, okay, because like during the movie, like I guess we'll probably never get into this kind of stuff, and they're like, oh, it did happen, so.
How many floors? Neat. How many floors was the elevator?
A lot.
It seemed like it was going down, right? Going up.
It seemed like it was going down to the train depot.
Yeah. So they was in there for a while.
Ethan Fisher says that apparently there was a zombie on there tonight. I didn't see that. Well, I guess if it was all of the old hosts, all the
I guess
dead
they're technically zombies. Yeah. The cold storage come back to life, which I'm glad. That's something that we called in the very beginning of the season, so I'm happy that they lived up to that.
I think it was talking about The Walking Dead.
Oh, as if a chat, but still, I mean, you could call those zombies. You could call them zombies. Okay, let's talk about Ford. So we all assumed he's this evil guy, but it seems in the end he was trying to fulfill Arnold's work and let them free. It just took a long time. So Ford redeemed?
Sure, why not?
I mean, Ford redeemed is still questionable because he was still controlling all of these hosts to do pretty immoral things to each other. And that's when the hosts are waking up and realizing like, oh, there's all this suffering that exists in my life. Ford is partially responsible for that. I agree. I thought it was super interesting that we've been talking specifically for the past few weeks about this idea that Ford and Arnold are two opposing forces and they're working against each other. But to find out, no, they're actually working in parallel against the larger force of humanity was something interesting and obviously an interesting arc for Anthony Hopkins to reach before his character assumingly gets killed off the show. But I don't know if that necessarily justifies all the other stuff that we've seen Ford do. Like, was killing Teresa worth it to get towards this goal of having the host come into consciousness?
Well, he's killing everybody anyway, right, at this point, or leading to their death.
What if she was going to block the whole plan of?
Well, he's been obsessed with this narrative the whole time. So the narrative is presumably them, the hosts finally, taking charge for themselves. But he said, he even referenced it towards the end of the episode to Dolores that it was Arnold's suffering over his son that was the thing that kind of made them human or whatever it was, if you will. So the continued suffering that the hosts experienced is what eventually led them to the reveries, like to remember these terrible things that happened to him that kind of jump-started consciousness, which has kind of been one of the underlying themes. Episode title, The Bicameral Mind, brought up early on in the season. And it seems like, yes, Ford did all these horrible things, but it's almost like what we were thinking about Man in Black, what he was doing, in that, we're like, oh, maybe he's just being such a bad guy to try and, jumpstart them to start fighting for themselves. Yeah. But in the end, he's just kind of like a psychopath. With a hole in his heart.
What heart?
But
yeah, I think we assumed a lot more of a lot of these characters than what they actually have turned out to be so far.
But it seems Ford was almost doing that in continuing to say like humans don't trust us, don't and we just felt it as this very nefarious he's just this bad guy. But if he's doing it with the hope that he's like kind of kickstarting the last end of the maze.
Well, I was just happy for.
Did he do the right thing?
I was just
What's that?
happy Ford finally remembered William's name on the final episode.
Yes, someone finally said William's name.
Yeah.
Do we keep calling him Man in Black, or do we call him William?
I can't.
That's something for 2018 J Jack and Mike to figure out.
I am not going to call him. William is dead to me.
Well, I kind of, it's almost more fitting as well, because I felt like let's jump into that then. Let's talk about the Man in Black. William is Man in Black is William reveal. It almost, on one hand, it's a great validation of the theory. It's a great tie-in of the story. It was a really cool plot device. But almost instantly, it took this character that was like mysterious and really cool, and now you just see he's like, this, crazy, very human, very flawed, and doesn't really get it at all person.
He did smile when he got shot,
because there's finally real stakes. But like it was a great reveal in that Man in Black isn't this what we thought he was. He's just this guy William that had this insane experience, and it pushed him over the deep end, and he still doesn't really get it, it seems.
Yeah, first of all, it was weird seeing him walk around in a tux during the gala. That felt odd to me, taking him out of that setting.
He should have at least still had a hat, a black hat.
He should have had like a top hat or something. Yeah, there you go. For the occasion. But yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that it's like removing teeth from the character as much as it is. I mean, we've been really debating this entire season, is Man in Black the adversary? Is it going to be Ford versus Man in Black?
Mm-hmm.
That really turns out not to be the case. And now he's sort of revealed as just a really effed up board member who's looking for a larger purpose in life. And that's obviously going to be interesting in future seasons. And it'll be interesting to see which side of this robot revolution he ends up supporting. But something else tells me that, I mean, we're going to have a long off season. I feel like a lot of people are going to start to track things chronologically now that we're starting to see the timelines fleshed out a little more and actually confirmed. And we'll start to see, I have a feeling there might be some plot holes that will emerge now that we know. Because I think, Jack, even last week, and Jay, you guys were coming up with questions about, if William is Man in Black, why did this happen? Why is he acting like this? So I think there still are some questions to be raised. I think the other question is, are we done with William and Logan? Is that a wrap on Jimmy Simpson?
I don't. We know where it ends up. So like, how good could it be? Like, it would seem kind of inside baseball to see like how he took over the company. I mean, I guess it would be interesting, but I don't know if it's.
I need to see it because there wasn't enough today to see. Okay, he shot up a bunch of people. A bunch of hosts.
But Jack, is this self-serving to try and find out that Logan really wasn't just this dummy?
No. It just to me, I go, okay, the things he was doing to Dolores, I mean, he cared about her. He loved her. And all of a sudden now he just, I mean, Logan was trying to tell him the whole time, she's just a robot. She's not real.
Yeah, we even saw her get put together in the beginning of this episode, which was fantastic.
That was a cool scene.
That was amazing, yeah. But going back to Logan, we pick on him for being stupid, but he's trying to tell everything he was trying to tell him was true, and he got so obsessed with her that he went to the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
So was Logan right? And what I figured it was Logan was where before it was revealed that he was Man in Black.
I've made a mistake. I've opened it up for your Logan thoughts again.
Anyway, but when I realized it was he was probably Man in Black is when he was dragging Logan with the rope, tied his hands.
Mm-hmm.
We saw Man in Black do that earlier.
Well, it's almost like I guess if there's anything out of the reveal that he was Man in Black, I thought it was a little much. That we already knew he had the knife, and then he gets the gun, his cannon gun. And then he picks up the hat from somebody else. I was like, it's a little too over the top. I think we got it. We didn't need that much, We
were one step away, but from William being like, I am a man. This is black. Maybe one day I will be the Man in Black.
I was still at this point. I wasn't convinced yet.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
But no, seriously, I want to know more about what pushed him over. It couldn't just be what we saw today, and him getting rejected with the can. I mean, there has to be more to it.
Well, Scott has a good comment there about Man in Black. Every Man in Black after Stephen King's Man in Black, Dark Tower Stories, is ultimately a disappointing Man in Black, Lost, and now Westworld. Yeah, I mean, nothing to take away from Ed Harris' performance. Fantastic. I mean, it's a really cool storyline, and the fact that he's not, but I think is it just removing the mystery of knowing who he is now? It's like the Man with No Name spaghetti western series, where it's just like the more mysterious it is, the better it is.
Yeah, this would be the equivalent of like halfway through the movie, the man with no name like gets a call from his mom, like, Francis, come back for dinner, Francis, and they're like, great, all right.
I don't want to have dinner, Mom.
So now the one thing that we really, because he definitely was one of the biggest general. I talked last week about like the Mount Rushmore of big mysteries in Westworld.
Yeah.
I feel like he was one of them, and we've essentially chiseled away at that part of Mount Rushmore. And the question is, can we sort of construct a new face in the next season? And is it going to involve him in any sort of way? Now that we know not only who he is, but sort of what his past is.
Well, then, since he is the main owner of Delos and the main shareholder of the park, I would assume he's still around if he survives the host zombie apocalypse that's in front of him. But I would assume Ed Harris is back, right? Are we assuming Ed Harris survives whatever's going to come?
So now we can say, I'm going to spoiler alert, cast releases. If you don't want to hear about this, tune out for the next 2 minutes. I've given people enough time. There was an article, I believe, in EW, an interview with Ed Harris, where he said he will be back next season. So
that's not so much a spoiler because it could all be flashbacks.
But again, is now that we know who he is, and like he's just some psycho guy that just went crazy. We thought he was just this clever guy in the beginning. Do I care? Do we care that he's coming back?
What I like about it though is the fact that the maze wasn't what he thought it was. Is because the whole time the host kept telling him the maze is not for you. The maze is not for you.
Yeah.
And it very clearly isn't. The maze, in its reveal, was something Bernard put together to help them get to the top of what that originally was the pyramid.
He's really got
gain self-consciousness.
He's really got to be ticked off too that he goes, I've never met this Wyatt host.
Well, you have. You've just been staring at her the whole time.
Well,
you've put her in a barn.
Yeah, you've done more than just meet her.
Oh man. Let's see here. Since we're talking about Man in Black's quest for the maze, let's jump into the maze reveal. What did you guys think about the reveal of the maze? As it's less an actual physical place, but it's more the path to self-consciousness that Arnold was working towards.
We talked about that early on though, so I think I didn't think it was going to be anything big.
I mean, I know I was on record saying that I would not be a fan if that was the reveal. This whole idea of like, oh, the treasure was you all along. But I liked how it was done. I really liked, as you mentioned before, Jay, this idea of, hey, Man in Black, the maze really was not for you because it's meant for the host. I thought that was an interesting way of kind of twisting those words. And again, it might have been a little anticlimactic that like, oh yeah, this was
Ethan very slyly says maze equals a place they made together.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's it's the final shot of the final episode is gonna be like them building a new Westworld and putting like a sign on it that says like the maze. Population 60. But I was not too affronted by the way it was done, especially since again it did culminate immediately into Dolores' coming into consciousness. If we just had this reveal and then nothing happened as a result, I might be a little more miffed. But because we got direct results from it, I'm a little happier about it.
Yeah, like I thought it was good because it really tied into this big plot point that we were all expecting to happen and like to see how it happened. And I think it served the plot really well that this is, really Dolores realizing or knowing that it was her own voice that she was following, which is what like Arnold was trying to get her towards, which was like using the bicameral mind to kind of jumpstart consciousness, which was originally, Arnold's voice, and they kind of did the transition of Ford's voice and then it being her own voice and her recognizing that. and then taking on this role of, this world wasn't meant for you, and shooting forward and raining havoc upon the rest of the board.
Did Charlotte survive this?
We didn't see her dead, so I'm guessing she's still going to be alive at least at the beginning of next season.
We didn't see a shot of her crawling, bloodied, saying like, "But I need to get back to my father, Arnold. Where is he? Where's my father, Arnold?"
Oh wait, so we did win. We did win the.
So I guess we won.
draft.
Yeah, I guess I was decrying our chances, but it turns out that I think we actually did win the draft by your tally.
Take that, Josh and Joe opinionated.
So does that means we get to take over their show? I can't remember what the stakes were.
You guys get to go on their show, and I get to watch. So
I don't know if I like that. I feel like I'm a host.
But yeah, for me, I think the Maze reveal was good. I don't think it was disappointing. I could see maybe some people think about it. Again, at no point did we not think that was a possibility. So at no point did it seem like, they said it wasn't going to be purgatory. It ended up being purgatory.
That's true.
There's nothing like that. There's nothing like that.
I wasn't upset.
Mandy said, the moon at the beach was killing me. So Truman Show. I noticed the moon seemed very unnatural as well.
Yeah, I mean, it was extreme. I'm not an astronomer, but that moon was very low in the sky, was it not?
Yes. Well, I guess it would set in the ocean, right? Moon sets. Is that a thing? Moon.
Or was it rising?
Moon rising.
I go, where did this ocean come from? She was dying. How far could they have ridden? How far?
Well, then we realize it's all part of his little narrative.
Well, I get that, but first I'm not going, where the hell did this ocean come from? What world are they at?
Yeah, I can't wait for Beach Party Westworld coming next season.
Beach blanket bingo. Another hashtag JJackLive tweet. Could that have been Chinese world, since the second language of the train was Chinese? No, because if it's samurai, then samurais, that's
Japan.
From Japan. There could be. We don't know.
I think it probably speaks to, if this does take place on Earth in some sort of indeterminate future year, that we're in a state now where the two biggest languages on the planet are English and Chinese, which is sort of kind of where we are now, with a little bit of Spanish mixed in.
Yeah, that's true. And if anybody's seen Firefly and knows the future, the two countries just merge, and then it's a combination of both. But obviously, we're not quite there yet in this timeline.
Spoiler alert.
But it's Samurai World, and we talked about it a little bit. I like it being Samurai World, and it might be a stretch in terms of the connection, but the Magnificent Seven was a remake of Seven Samurai, and Magnificent Seven starred Yul Brynner, and in Westworld, as the gunslinger, he wore the same clothes he wore in Magnificent Seven. And I don't know where I was going with that, but still, it's a slightly cool tie-in, and I'd be really curious to see if they did explore that world. Do we think they're going to explore that world, or is this just a little? There you go.
It might add to the story.
Who do you think would explore that world, though? Would it be board members, workers, or do you think we'd get another host trying to break out and exploring that part of the company?
I don't know.
It'll be two guys. We'll see them. One guy's a really crazy guy and just does everything, and the other guy's a real nice guy. But at the end of the 10 episodes, he'll be killing everyone with a samurai sword. And he'll be wearing black, and he'll be William again.
William's son.
Yeah, William's son. There you go. William's daughter. He has a daughter.
People, I've seen a few, including John Michael Mossman, that there will be a Game of Thrones world. So a fantasy world, that'd be kind of cool.
Well, you know what? Game of Thrones is ending after one more season. HBO needs to capitalize on that fantasy more.
Ooh, what if they did some kind of reveal? And maybe this is like, they're all in the mind of it. Like, all of their stories.
No.
They're all just worlds in this, with Delos, land. So I think somebody said earlier, Sopranos world, Game of Thrones world. They're all narratives that we're watching, and we are in Westworld, man.
I want to go to the Wire world, but I heard it has really low attendance numbers.
Even though it's an excellent show.
It's a really great park, but nobody wants to go there for some reason.
Well, because it's in Baltimore, right?
Yeah, down the hole.
Or B-more.
I actually like Baltimore. I'm just
Well, it was well. Speaking towards the samurai world reveal, can we talk about Maeve for a second and what her?
Oh yeah, let's talk about
next
Maeve.
steps are? So there's a few things in this. One, badass, action scenes in this episode, which is very atypical of Westworld, with Armistice and Hector just sort of gunning down everyone in front of them, was insane to watch.
Oh yeah.
You have the aforementioned.
Also, are there unlimited bullets in these guns? I was like,
Yes.
that's what I was worried. I was like,
The security guards are loaded to the
yes.
teeth, it seems.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, their reaction though, when they first shot the gun, automatic weapons, they went nice, because they're used to the single shot.
Yeah,
but I'm sorry.
But obviously we have the real gruesome factors that come with that first scene with those technicians dying. But Maeve's endgame here is that she gets on a train to leave Westworld, but seeing that little girl, and when I saw that little girl in one of the first shots, I was like, yep, she's going to get hung up on that. Yeah. She decides to go back for her daughter, assuming she's in Park 1, which still might be Westworld. We're not entirely sure, but how is Maeve going to be able to do that? Felix and Sylvester both know her, and Sylvester, I think, would want to rat her out at the end of the day. Plus, it seems like they have security footage of her doing stuff as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm not entirely sure how she can really assimilate herself into the background and have everything be copacetic in Westworld.
Yeah, it's a tall order. It's a really tall order, and I respect the move that she made. Again, I think it's part of her, gaining her own consciousness and not following. Because for Maeve's storyline today, like she restarted Bernard. She's putting all this stuff together, and in that time where she reboots Bernard, brings him back, or I guess Felix does, we find out that she's not doing this on her own. Like all this trying to escape everything, this has been programmed into her, and she breaks the little iPad before we can find out who did it.
What was it Felix?
No, I think it was Ford. Like
one thing that was not confirmed tonight: Felix is not a host.
Right?
Yes. And I loved it. I loved the reveal that where he's just like looking at his hands and he's just like starting to act robot.
But do you think Felix will be waiting there with Maeve's daughter? Say, we're a family.
We are a family now.
But so we don't know. So who do we think was sending Maeve on this mission to escape? I think Ford. If this is his grand plan to help them, eventually take over the world.
Do we give Ford all the credit? It would explain why Ford didn't react when she was going through all these steps.
Yeah, exactly. We kept arguing, like, why isn't Ford seeing all this stuff that was going on? And now we know that he did. He was just planning all these steps. He wanted them to do this stuff. So I would assume it was Ford, but it was Ford under like the Arnold alias, because obviously if you see, hey, Robert Ford changed this code, you go directly to him. But when you say, oh, it was Arnold, then things become a little more mysterious.
Was Felix working for Ford? Maybe.
No. I think
you're starting to Logan Felix here. This guy is not complicated.
I have hope for Felix to do. I have hope for him.
Jack can't trust Logan anymore. He's moved on. He's like, all right, who's the next guy you're trying to say?
Once I see Felix walking out naked, then I'll know that theory can't happen.
Oh man,
I think Felix is smarter than we give him credit for.
But Maeve is going back to get her daughter. I guess that could be a main storyline for her, is trying to get back in. She took all this time to get out. Now she's trying to get back in. How's it going to happen?
They have to keep some of the great actors there. They can't,
Well, we only lost one great actor, right? I mean, Anthony Hopkins is the only one gone.
Like Ed Harris, like I said, I'll have to see what they do with his character.
Of course, Bernard could just pull it forward and make like a Anthony Hopkins host that he calls Chevy. I don't know.
What are they just gonna make, like a CGI Anthony Hopkins, just stick like a Jar Jar Binks version of Anthony Hopkins to just sort of bop around in the background?
It's the only problem with that. The board saw what's left of the board saw Ford get killed.
Well, they're all gonna be dead, assuming.
Well, I don't think we didn't see Charlotte.
No, I saw someone in the background get shot in the back. So you can assume that a lot of those board members did get gunned down, which made me, I definitely was a little trepidatious about this whole idea of like, let's get all the board members together, because you can tell something big was going to happen no matter what. So it'll be interesting to see how the corporation restructures after this as well, because not only are they losing Ford, they're probably also losing a good amount of their board members to begin with. And Man in Black might not necessarily be able to keep it all afloat by himself.
Do they have a designated survivor
to bring in Logan
member?
Man in Black might be the designated survivor board member.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah,
maybe it's no, Jay. Maybe it is Logan.
God dang it! I opened it up again. To the Ford. If Ford sent Maeve on this path, it seems to be consensus of the people listening to this right now. Ethan says Ford. John says Ford. Joe Ford. A lot of people are saying it's Ford. Anybody else? Is there anybody else that it could be besides Ford?
Felix. Starts with an F.
Oh God. Anyway.
I was a big fan of Felix the cat when I was a kid, so
sure.
He had a magic bag.
Teddy seemed to at least gain a little bit more understanding of the world. Maybe. Where do we see him going from here? Is he still just Dolores's, aka Wyatt's, tool puppet?
Yeah, I was gonna say like side piece. I mean, it was also cool to see Teddy come back to Dolores, because it made me remember that, like, I don't think since like episode 4 have we seen the two of them together, because, Teddy tried to pursue the Wyatt stuff, and then Man in Black found him. Dolores has obviously been doing her own thing. And by the way, I also love that Sixth Sense-esque reveal of, all the time she thought she was going on the William narrative. It turns out that she was just sort of replaying it by herself. But I mean, I can also sort of use this to segue into my thoughts about the whole Arnold death scene, which again goes back to confirm one of our other theories of, did Arnold kill himself? Did Dolores strike out and kill him? Did Ford kill him all along? It turns out it was the first one. Yeah. But that scene was also really well done, and it was heartbreaking to have Arnold be like, "This was my son's favorite song. I played when he tried to go to sleep. I want to see him now." And so,
which is the one that calmed. That was the same song that Ford used to calm Maeve when she was freaking out.
Yeah. So it's awesome to. I mean, I feel like we were almost saying goodbye to the Arnold character there. Obviously, I think we're going to see him in more of these reveries, but that was a nice like sending off for this Arnold character, who we've only really gotten to know in the past 2 episodes, but I feel like we've known for a much longer time. Maybe it's because it's played by Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and the reveal of it kind of then gives context to everything we've seen with Bernard before, which develops and opens up that backstory even more. But you're right. It seems that is the end of Arnold. I mean, and the beginning of Bernard, in a way. Let's talk about Bernard for a second in this episode. I want to close out on Dolores, like focusing on Dolores, but Bernard, him coming back, he seems like, there's a lot of thought. I think my prediction is that Bernard would come back, but he'd be like Bernarnold and ready to kind of like kick ass and take names. But that didn't really happen. He seems kind of like, what's going on? What is my place here? What's my involvement? Or, he kind of seems lost in what's happening right now and isn't really caught up to it. Thoughts on Bernard in this episode, maybe where his character goes from here?
Well, when Ford said goodbye to him, I thought for a second that Ford was going to kill him again or make him kill himself, or Bernard was going to have to wipe his own memory. It seemed like he didn't, because he was able to whisper, "These violent delights have violent ends," which my wife thought was like her trigger word, like from like the Manchurian Candidate. I'm still not sure if that's entirely the case, but I'm sure that's something we can ruminate on later. But yeah, he seems a little confused. I'm a little shocked that they waited less than an episode to bring him back. But since Ford's gone, I think he's pretty much the highest ranking Delos member of not of the board, but I guess of the staff that we have left. And
I think it's Lee Sizemore is actually the one is poised to take over.
I hope
and he's been promised by Charlotte. He was on another big mission there.
Well, Lee's like, Charlotte's going to be killed. He's like, oh, she said I could be in charge.
And what happened to Abernathy?
He was with the zombies. Remember, he was supposed to go get Abernathy, but Abernathy was with the other zombies.
Yeah, but did we actually see him?
I mean, we saw, but there were a bunch of people in the background. I'm sure he was part of it.
Well, they need like
Jack, just go back,
flashlights.
freeze frame every scene. I'm sure you'll be able to see him there.
No, they need a better flashlight. I'm not happy with the 3-prong.
But Mike, get back to your thoughts on Bernard.
Yeah, so it'll be really interesting to see as him as either him or Lee as the highest ranking member of Delos. How is he going to move forward in a post-Ford world, working there while at the same time being cognizant of the fact that he is a host? And again, if we're talking about this robot revolution that finally might be happening, where is he going to stand? Is it going to be a conflict of interest that the very company that they're rebelling against is a thing that he's a part of when he is actually one of them?
Well, and maybe that's his in, or maybe that's their in, is that he is one of them, and
so when he's
to be his advocate on the their advocate on the inside.
So when he's with the board again, can you believe these hosts? Can you believe these hosts just going crazy like that?
Host,
man.
I mean, it's a good thing I'm not one because I'm really a human.
Yeah, I'm real. That Lee Sizemore guy, though, I think he's a host. We should shoot
sure
him.
he's a host.
Oh man. Some other comments here. Ford kept saying Bernard was making the same mistakes as Arnold. Is that Ford? Because now Ford's not there. It seems Ford has very much been Bernard's caretaker in a lot of ways. Now that Ford is dead, is Bernard lost, or is he truly going to have to find himself and be on his own? We're talking about him being on his own and being the highest ranked Delos member, but it seems very much that Ford has kept a tight leash on that, and without Ford there, what's Bernard's safety net?
I disagree. What is some of Ford's last words in that last scene? Mozart, Chopin, Beethoven never died. They simply became music. Ford is not technically dead. He lives in the code, much like the hit Johnny Depp film Transcendence.
There it is. Nicely done.
I think that I feel like Bernard might not be that lost because now's an opportunity for him to really come into his own consciousness as Arnold, as this role that he really has been bred to be the entire time and just hasn't realized it. So Ford is still there. He's still inherent in his behaviors, but now Bernard is realizing that he is acting more independently using his own DNA, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So will Bernard's first act as board at the head of the board be to go find Elsie?
And Stubbs.
Well, no, he didn't do anything. He didn't do anything.
Stubbs wasn't even in the episode. They had a new guy that I don't know his name. But
Bernard thinks that he killed Elsie, so maybe he won't search for her.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just thinking the whole OJ. Because OJ, remember, he said he once he was found innocent, he was going to find Nicole's killer.
So does that mean Bernard's going to write a book called "If I Killed Her"?
If I had killed Elsie, if I had done it.
Oh man, let's move on from the OJ references and let's go to another comment here. Sasha says, if Ford has crafted this entire board finale, then perhaps we can presume he has a robot Ford ready to take over and thereby live forever and oversee the robot revolution. So maybe it's not Bernard's baton to take. It is robot Ford. Is that a thing, or is Ford done?
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, I don't think that would be. I think if next season is about chaos, Robert Ford is not a representation of chaos. He's a representation of control, which is what the entire first season was. I think now that the dictatorial leader has fallen and the power is to the people or the robotic people now, let's see what that happens.
Will we finally on Jay's theory, one timeline next year?
Yeah, that's true. I guess the question is, are we going, now that our 3 timeline theory was confirmed, are we going to have, I think we actually had a question about this in either in the feedback or in the crossover show that we did. Somebody said, are we going to move on from one timeline here on out now that the William Man in Black thing has kind of been revealed?
Or do we get flashbacks of William on his homeland?
Ugh, no, I don't want flashbacks of William. It's just.
Are you done? You're upset.
It's old hat. It's old hat. It's black hat. It doesn't. We don't need any more.
I need more. I just need a whole season of just William and his backstory.
Mm-hmm. Actually, there is a comment here that we haven't heard you say braggadocious yet, Mike. So we're almost an hour in.
Well, I was very braggadocious about the fact that I did not bring up braggadocious yet.
Oh man. Let's see some other comments here. Chewy Guru says Arnold didn't like the idea of Westworld, saw it as a hell for self-conscious AI. Ford wanted to evolve AI beyond humans and set it loose as natural evolution. So did they still have? Did Arnold's death inspire Ford to get to here?
Well, because you have to remember, why did Arnold want Dolores to do? And we have to assume that the incident now was Dolores indeed gunning down all of these hosts and eventually Arnold. And one of the reasons why he did it was to really leave a lasting impression in Ford, because Ford sort of took the position that the board takes now of like, no, we have to keep the park open. Everything's fine. Don't try to advance these hosts at all. And that was sort of Ford's own awakening moment of, this is what Arnold was working towards. This is something that I want to work towards as well. Yeah.
The ending being a new incident. Is
every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end.
I also love throughout the whole season we kept going those flashes of Dolores standing over all the dead bodies. And then all of that finally come together. I thought was really cool. There's another. So I think Scott said a little. I don't want to say it was bad, but the reveals were somewhat predictable. Like the Man in Black as William was kind of predictable, and it was really well earned, and we all saw it. But do you think it was not predictable for other viewers, like just maybe casual viewers of the show? Do you think like once they took the hat and it was like, oh my God, it is him? Like, was there that kind of moment for people?
Yeah, I need to talk to my mom and Josh Wigler's hair cutter tomorrow to figure out what they liked about if they were as shocked about the outcomes as we were.
I think people were probably, because we talk about Lost, we bring it up where the theories would just drag on for seasons. That they answered them as they went along. I mean, it was a bang, 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 bang. They didn't, Man in Black. I mean, I was still holding out hope, but I knew deep down it probably wasn't going to happen. But I wasn't shocked. But I like the fact that they did answer a lot of questions. Mm-hmm. Didn't drag them out.
Ford said that Arnold's death was his cornerstone, his moment of suffering, which set him on his path to do everything that he's done the past 35 years. Another call by Mandy says we could have flashbacks to this chaos while present time will be calm in the park. So what we're seeing is setting up right now with this chaos. That could be the flashback of next season, because we could be after, whatever happens here.
Well, the first scene be all the people dead, the people in the hazmat suits coming out to get them.
Well, this time it would be people.
What are they going to do with them? They can't work on them. They're not made of metal. That's what they said. They said, what did the technicians say? Like, I'm not a doctor. I'm a butcher.
Well, but they may not know. They just go, oh, we're supposed to go pick up dead bodies at the end of the night, so we'll drag them in here. Where's Teddy? Anybody got Teddy?
Well, let's close out on the last character here, the one we probably, arguably the main character, but Dolores, and everything that happened to her in this episode. Mike talked earlier about her, turning on as the robot version of her, which was a really cool scene when she, was brought online. But thoughts on Dolores's story here and kind of wrapping it up in season 1.
I mean, this was a powerhouse performance by Evan Rachel Wood.
Yeah.
I think we can also talk probably during our feedback show about the general track of Dolores's character, because you say she's the main character. I would definitely say in this episode, but I would not say of season 1. For a while, I felt like this latter half of the season, Maeve's trajectory was going up at a much faster rate than Dolores's. But as I mentioned before, I'm so happy that we finally got an advancing of the Dolores storyline, that we know what the flashes were. We knew how she was able to exist in, a few timelines at once. It turns out that she was, but at the same time was just sort of having flashbacks while she was almost schizophrenic in a way, which makes things very exciting. And she really has had an advancement in that she's a new person. And it's it was so scary to watch her, put her hands on Teddy and say, like, this world doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. I know things now, Teddy.
Don't worry, Teddy. I'm not shooting you this time.
It's exciting. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I'm really excited for season 2 is to now that Dolores' potential has finally been unlocked, we can finally see what happens with that character.
Yeah.
Well, you said what a great performance by the actress. It was amazing because how many scenes was she crying in?
Oh my! Every scene she had a tear rolling down her cheek,
and just not coming out of her nose. I mean, it was just amazing. Seriously, I mean, it was an amazing. And those scenes are probably done over and over. Well, I'm just saying over and over and over again how you have to get yourself in. I mean, depending how an actor gets ready, some actors are different, but to get yourself in that emotional state where you have to tear up and cry. I mean, I don't know how you do that over and over. And she just had so many different, where she's being beat up by Man in Black, William, and she turns the tables on him and just beats the snot out of him. Back to snot.
And I love
an amazing performance.
Yeah, the cinematography in that scene is great too because there's that one scene where she's dragging him backwards and he's just sort of scrambling for the ground. And what have we seen so many freaking times that has made so many people yell at Jack about what he may or may not have done to her in the barn? He's dragging her backwards.
Yeah, no, it was that was great. Now the how they showed her finally listening to her own voice or realizing that it's her own voice that drives her actions. Is that a little bit too much of a high concept scene, or is it easily palatable in terms of how they showed that with her talking to herself and everything?
I mean, I liked it. I'm glad that I think we had sort of gained a grasp on what the whole bicameral mind theory was, but maybe some viewers had not. So I'm glad that they repeated it at least. It was cool that the dialogue from the beginning of the episode was the ties back into it. I'm in a dream. The first thing I hear is your voice, and that was ultimately her consciousness.
Yeah.
So I liked how it was done. Was a little repetitive, yes, but due to the fact that we really had not heard about the bicameral mind stuff in like 6 weeks at this point, it might have been necessary to rehash it.
Yeah. Yeah. How about for you, Jack? Do you feel like it connected it really well?
I had no problem with it. I liked it. I liked how, like Mike just said, that we haven't heard this, them talk about it for weeks. I liked it. I thought it was a great episode. I liked it. I liked the whole episode from start to finish. Like I said, I can't wait. I can't believe we have to wait a year.
Well, we had this one character, Man in Black, that now we know is William, and it's like, he's not that cool. And now Dolores is AKA Wyatt, which makes her pretty badass. Yeah. So do we start calling her Wyatt next season?
She doesn't look like a Wyatt, so I'm gonna say no.
Maybe when she's like really acting out, we can call her Wyatt. Like
when
how
when she's shooting people, she's Wyatt.
Like how when Smeagol acts really creepy, we call him Gollum.
But also, another just quick thing, the zombies coming out and going after him. It makes sense now why Wyatt's men keep getting shot and aren't being killed, right? So do we assume the horned people and everything like that sketch in the background were those just reanimated former hosts as well?
Or they were drawn Dolores maybe did the sketches. She's into art, right?
Yes. She loves hand to God.
Yeah.
Which I learned a lesson. I did not know about the whole brain symbology behind
No, I didn't either. That was great.
We learned something tonight.
I go, wait, is that public knowledge? Because I've never heard that.
But I thought it was so cool. Like, it was just a great way to paint the picture of like creation, right? Like and Ford's kind of been saying it the whole time. Like, there's not some divine thing it's just the human mind, and that is what it creates existence or how we perceive it. So really, really cool reveal. All right, well, I think that's kind of
I had one thing because I know, Jay, you're anti-woman. What do you think about the two strongest characters on this show being women?
I think it's fantastic. Where am I anti-women? Where did that come from?
Just trying to throw you under the bus.
For what? I never said
you under that high-moving train that's speaking Chinese to you.
You only have to say it. You only have to say it. You don't have to prove it.
Oh, that's right. It's a new era we're living in. That's right. I forgot.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You've never said that. I do like the fact that the two strongest characters are women.
I agree.
Well, it was. I think it was way back for Dolores, where she's like, "I didn't want to be the damsel anymore," and I thought, that was such a great line, and then to where she is now, and really the main driver of this, makes it very interesting, and seeing where it goes from there.
Because up for the first 9 episodes, you would have said Man in Black is probably the stronger character. He's controlling the park. He's dragging Dolores into barns. He's killing everyone. And then you see at the end, you guys talked about, Dolores is dragging him.
Yeah.
So he's just really just kind of just, well, he's a good old weak William.
Well, that's similar to Game of Thrones, though, right? And I don't want to spoil too much of Game of Thrones, but I feel like Game of Thrones of its past few seasons has really embraced, hey, these female characters that live in a society that is patriarchal and really dominated by, like, the men go off to war and fight and the women care for the home.
Shame.
They're really coming into their own as really strong-willed characters that sometimes kick a lot of ass. So interesting that, like, the 2 big prestige HBO dramas are all about girl power.
Yeah, and I think it works really well. Well, I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up our initial reaction thoughts. What are any final thoughts for you guys before we close out our live reaction show?
I'm really excited to see what people think about this and what they think it means for the future of Westworld, because I'm optimistic that the future is open here. Maybe not future world at this point, but this idea that, like, now we've really hit a key moment in this timeline, this one timeline. And I'm excited to see what the chaos is going to ensue, how it's going to affect these characters. Now I can understand when Jonathan and Nolan and Lisa and Joy say, like, oh yeah, we're not going to bring people back, new people back every season. It's going to be around the same characters. Now we can sort of see what is going to be the result with, our main group of characters. And it's also of note, I believe Delos did send an email out at the end of the episode saying, security has called for all guests to go to the entrance of the park. So,
oh wow,
I think we're in for a big tidal wave coming our way, and I'm ready to put on some waders and walk through that water.
Nice. Jack, final initial thoughts.
I think that I've been the one that's been worried how they're going to make this last for 6 seasons. But after this episode and seeing the direction they're probably at, you hit the extra footage at the end, knowing they have a game plan for 6 seasons, and it's not going to just be, okay, we got this first season done, now we're going to do the second season. I think it will be fine. I think they're going to finish strong. Just because they have a plan. If they didn't have a plan, if they're like, okay, well, we got this chaos thing going, but we're really not sure what we're going to do. Looking back, that they did take their time with it. They did delay the start of this. What was delayed? 6 months, 7 months, whatever it was.
Yeah.
All right, they came up with a game plan. I'm in.
Nice.
I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to stop now.
Scott says Spice World is actually where they're going next, which makes a lot of sense.
Great.
So who's playing Baby Spice?
James says, I'm telling you, Westworld is going to turn out to be an elaborate prequel for Battlestar Galactica. I think, for myself, I think this season and the season finale, just initial gut reactions was really enjoyable. How they kind of just laid everything out. They took their time with it, but also didn't stretch things out like shows do sometimes. Walking Dead. They just really kept it nice and condensed.
No, Walking Dead stretches.
Stretch Armstrong.
They've been stretching it out for 5 seasons now.
The reveals are great. Some of the criticisms of the show that I've seen is like they don't character build that much, but I felt like there's a lot about the characters in this episode that really fleshed out in a good way. So I overall just really excited to see where it's going to go from here. I know we have somewhat of a long way, at least a year, or over a year, a little over a year, until we get back, as far as we know right now. So we'll see. But just really, really good season finale, really satisfying. Nothing like blowing my mind or anything like that. I think the Samurai World is one where it's like, what does that mean? Where does that go? Or just a little thing. Like, so there's still those kind of things that I'm looking forward to digging into on our recap listener feedback show, which we're recording, I think, on Tuesday. But overall, just initial reactions, really enjoy the finale. and look forward to see where they're going to take it from here. Well, I think that is where we're going to wrap up our initial thoughts on the Westworld finale. That is not all the Westworld discussion we're going to be having this week. We're going to be doing our traditional recap / listener feedback show later this week. We will be recording it. Did we decide Tuesday night yet? Or I think there's something about Married Man on Tuesday night.
Married Man's on Tuesday.
Well, it'll be sometime this week that we're recording it. Haven't landed on that yet. But get in your feedback for that show. You can send an email to westworldjjm@gmail.com. So that's westworldjjm@gmail.com. Also, give us a call at 385-309-0311.
Calling time.
It's 385-309-0311. Calling time for questions, comments, and or theories. Follow us at Jay and Jack. The wonderful Mike Bloom is at a Mike Bloom type. And Mike actually does 10 bajillion podcasts. Mike, where can people find your other fantastic work?
I've mentioned them before. Hamster Factor, Survivor Historians. Rob has a podcast, post-show recaps, reality TV wrap-ups. Of note, this week, just released a big 3.5-hour Survivor Micronesia podcast on Survivor Historians. Just recorded a Top Chef season premiere recap that came back this week. That's always a lot of fun. Did an insane nearly 2-hour podcast on Survivor with Rob Cesternino where we went off the walls, but it was so much fun. So definitely check that out.
What was the clip? Was it actually?
Apparently,
that's what it was. But yes, your shows with Rob are always some of my favorite of the Survivor season. It did not disappoint.
Oh, I'm glad.
So definitely check that out. Check out our Facebook group, facebookgroup.com/group/Jay and Jack group, jayandjack.com/iTunes for all of our podcasts. And then also our patrons over at patreon.com/Jay and Jack. Special thanks to Molly, Brad from Chicago, Eckhart Richter, and Tack from Tokyo for making our shows possible, and all of our patrons. The broadcasted a live show yesterday, and they gained like 2 or 3 patrons off of that show.
Nice.
So for people listening out, maybe haven't done it yet, it makes a difference. It makes, it's all the money goes to all of our podcasters, all of our hosting fees and everything like that.
Hosting fees?
Yeah, like... but yeah, so the big thanks to everybody that contributes to that. It's also the holiday season, and if you use Amazon to shop during the holiday season, you can use jayandjack.com/Amazon. A small itty bitty portion of those sales go to the Greater Jay and Jack Productions pot. All right, that is it. The pot, yeah.
It's not legal here in North Carolina.
We'll talk to you guys later this week as we dig in for our recap and listener feedback show. Really look forward to that. But I will say for Jack and Mike, this season has been a blast recording with you guys. This has been the most fun podcasting I've had since the Lost Days, which was like 10 years ago.
Except for the Game of Thrones podcast that you had a lot of fun doing.
But this just the way Westworld was.
And the Married Man podcast you have so much fun doing it. Well, I guess not anymore.
I just like that, just the level of like breaking things down and digging into theories and stuff like that.
What was wrong with the V podcast?
I'm not going to get into that, but I do want to say a big thanks to Mike for joining us for this season, and
pleasure has been all mine. Thank you guys for having me on. It's been a dream. I keep saying it, but it's been a dream. I'm in a dream to be able to
It's more of a nightmare, though, isn't it?
When Lee Sizemore is involved, it definitely is. To be involved with this and moving forward as well, it's something that I've always aspired to do, and I'm so grateful that I get to do it every day. So thank you, and thank you for the show, and thank you for the listeners for being such amazing theorists and being along with us for the ride.
Absolutely. And if you don't know, and we talked about it before, but Mike's going to be joining our Leftovers podcast for its final season, which if you watch, I don't know if it was everywhere, but on HBO Now, they had one of those big plugs for Leftovers. So we'll be covering that in its final season next, I think, April. That one's launching. So more to come there, and there'll be more Westworld with Jay, Jack, and Mike to come later this week with our recap and feedback show. Jack, any final thoughts from you?
I'm just bummed that they killed off Ford because we're lining up to get Anthony Hopkins on the show now. But now why have him on? Because he has nothing to add.
Sure. Sure.
Sorry,
no,
Anthony
no
Hopkins.
real scoops from Anthony Hopkins. So he's
Sorry.
useless.
As much as I'd like to have him on the show, it'd be kind of useless now having him on this. So I just sent him a message saying, forget it.
If there's anything we've learned in our days of doing this, Jack, like an actor from a show that has mysteries would say those mysteries on our show. You're totally right.
You
Totally
can trip. You could just trick him up like that. You just got to be quick.
Oh
with
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah. All
So
right.
what is the whole deal behind it?
Thank you to everybody that joined us live. I think we're trending a little over 50 people throughout the time here. So thank you to all of our live viewers and
Even Ethan.
Wow.
Wow, was that like a slight bit of kindness thrown to Ethan's way, Jack?
No, it was, I was being sarcastic.
Oh. All right, guys. We'll see you later this week for Westworld, J. Jack, and Mike. Until then, hasta luego and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.